Welcome back to Stu Structures. We're here for video 7 of building the Riverside shop, so stay tuned. Welcome back to Stu Structures. So, with this Riverside Shops building, there's just tons of little things here and there that need to be accomplished to get this building done. So we're going to jump into these. We've got foundations, we've got porches, porch roofs, we've got interiors to windows, just the foundation, the concrete foundation or rock foundation that holds up the Riverside shop of the buildings. We had a basis put together for the foam underneath the building as a foundation, or the ground that will support the foundation, so we need to work some on that. So anyway, we're just going to jump into this and let's see how far we can get in this video. Now there's just some touch-ups on a few of the old things. I'd left the chimney in this state in the last video, and we had gotten the flashing around the base of it, but the shiny glue, I needed to come back and just go ahead and put some flat black paint on that and kind of make it look seamless as a part of the roof. And these vents that I had added in last time, I got some black paint around the bottom of them to kind of mask the glue, but I also wanted to add just a little bit of black up at the top where the smoke would have came out and the rain would have washed it down the vents to some degree. So I just went ahead and added that into that. Now the two front porches, this is kind of how we left them in the last episode. You can see how I just back dragged the top of them with a knife to get the lines for the boards in them. And I just came back and got the whole thing wet and came through with some black and just started getting some stain color to it and kind of put some edging on it. And then I'm going to glue it underneath the front edge of the doors here on this big part of the building. And then the small one, I'm going to do the same thing and have it meet the porch underneath the small building on the side as well. What this does is, it gives me a good porch on the front, but the rest of the foundation is the thickness of that wood off the ground compared to where the porches are at. So I'm going to have to come back and deal with that. The next one I'm going to deal with is that big porch actually has an awning over top of it. So I came through and cut my 3 main posts that hold the roof up, and then I cut the cross member that goes across the whole top of that, the same width as the building and the porch, and I'm just going to glue that together to give me the stand that will support the front of the porch. And then once I come through and put some paint onto that, at this point's ready to mount on the porch. But now that the porch is dry underneath the building, I also want to come back and remember how I said the foundation with the rest of the building sits up high because of where I glued the porch onto the front edge. So I went through and found all this extra square stock in my parts boxes, and I'm just going to come back, and this first one was already pre-painted black. So I'm going to start gluing this around the rest of the foundation so that the whole building sets at the same height. Once I had that side done, I came through and I'm going to do this other side. And you can see here now that where the porch meets the rest of the building, the foundation will be all the same color. So now that the two sides are glued in place, I'm going to come back and do this building on the back end of it. The long pieces from the side walls claim clear to the back corner, but I had to put this back piece on the back wall. And then this small building off of this other side, I also have to come and go ahead and put the 2 pieces that make up those walls. Now the porch roof, these supports are just sitting there. They're not glued on at this point, but I had to measure how deep I wanted the porch roof. And basically I just cut this roof out of a piece of paper, because once I add paint onto this, I want it to be really soft and make it look like it's cloth type of a fabric. And then I come through and I just cut 2 2x6s the length of the building for the front and back of that. And this first piece I'm going to glue flat to this piece because this is the overhang, and the cloth will actually hang down below the 2x6. So once that's glued on, I come back and bend that into place in an upright position, and that's the underside of the front of the roof. And then the other piece, I need to glue at a 90 degree to the paper, so I use my 1-2-3 block and put this on the back edge of the paper and glue it into place. And that's both of the real long pieces in place. So then I measured all the rafters that I wanted and went through, and I just had a bunch of 2x6 scraps, and I went through and cut all the pieces I needed for that. And then one by one, because they're pretty close to exact same size, but they're just a hair different. So I'm just going to come back and one by one just start putting each one of these in and trimming if need be, and just work my way right down the row and get all these rafters underneath of the building, or the porch roof rather. And then once I get to this point, that's all the rafters in place. So, at this point, I need to really put some paint on this. And I'm just going to use this cream coat. It's kind of an off-white buttercream color. And it's just a real cheap paint that I picked up for 99 cents. It's one of these craft stores years ago. But once I come through and paint the upper side and the lower side of this, you can see that, it kind of sags between the rafters, and it really does look like a cloth overhang for the porch roof at this point. And then I turn it over and just put the same white paint on the bottom side, and once all this dries, then, it's just ready to mount onto the structure at this point. Now I did come back and paint the foundation boards black on this, and that was just something I had to wait for everything else to dry to come back and do this. And the doors, remember I had put the glass on the back side of these doors, and I went to fit them in and realized they're still just a little bit too wide. So I had to come back and go ahead and trim off some excess of the sides of these to get them to fit into the doorways. And in doing so, of course, the glass part came off. So, I put glass on these and repainted them, and repainted the pieces that go inside the windows as the display areas as well. Remember, we had put these can stacks together to put in two of those window platforms. And I'm just going to come back here and, I'm just going to put some labels, kind of just basically dots of paint on the front of them to look like they have labels on the front of the cans. And then, the platforms themselves, there's 4x4s in the corner of those buildings, so I have to come back and cut out these squares out of the corners of those platforms so that they'll mount in there. But then I'm ready to start putting stuff on the platforms to mount into the building. So I glue these cans on there, and there's still some space for a few things. So, I just got several things here. There's several different tools. The people I showed you that are kind of like mannequins, the way I'm going to use them, and they're just, just to stick in the windows for clothes for sale. Something else I want to do on the building is add some little bit of signage here and there as well. So I just went through a lot of my different signs that, I had collected over the years online and printed off a bunch of them, and just decided, some of them aren't really very visible. They're kind of fuzzy, and some of them are better than others. So out of what I had there to play with, I decided, well, these banners on the right-hand side, I'm going to cut to size and mount in the windows, at the top of the 4 show windows. And then the cigar and mail pouch sign, can go on that sides of the buildings that faces where the road, you can see it coming and going from the road, and just a couple of other little small signs to mount inside the windows of the doors themselves. But that should add enough small detail to where it'll make it interesting. So there you have this week's segment of building the Riverside shops. I've already started laying out the next build, which will be the last major building that I'm going to do, at least for right now, for the Belington area, so I can start putting modules together. But we still got a little bit to finish this one up yet. So, we'll be back this next week and hopefully get it finished. We're getting really close. I think I figured out how I'm going to do the stone abutments that hold up the building on the Riverside creek bank area. So we'll tackle that in next week's session. Thank you for coming back and sharing this time with me. If you haven't subscribed to the channel, please do so. Hit the like button and share these videos with people out there in the hobby. You know, it helps my analytics and gets me out there. I hope somebody's learning something from some of the things that I show on this channel. In any case, happy model railroading.